What's up, gangsters? It is time to start a new adventure here at Rube Goldberg Enterprises. This is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. This series is going to be focused exclusively on 3D printing. Now, I know if you guys have watched any of my nonsense, you've seen me, show 3D printed parts. I've used 3D printed parts in my, model making exercises for the last, 5-6 years. And I have a background in 3D printing. I actually, when I did my mechanical engineering graduate studies, I designed my whole project around 3D printing, and that was 25 years ago. 3D printing is a much older technology than a lot of people realize. The initial patents on SLA actually were filed by a guy named Chuck Hull back in 1987. So it's really only in the last 10 years where consumer level 3D printing has really started to become popular and obviously gotten a lot of attention. And I have not wanted to get into it myself, as in owning a machine, for a couple of reasons. One is I just didn't have a place to put it. The other is that I knew that the technology was progressing rapidly, and I just didn't want to, buy something and then have it immediately become obsolete. So I've waited. And I've, worked with other guys to do my printing for me, and that's all been really good. But once I renovated my studio space, got some more room, I knew that a 3D printer was going to be in my future. And a couple of months ago, I finally pulled the trigger, bought one, and I'm super happy about it. But I only just now, 2 weeks ago, got it out of the box and started getting it fired up and making my first prints. And that printer is, sorry about the flies, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's fly season around here on the farm. Anyway, so my printer is the epax x1-4k 5.5 inch mono. And I'm super stoked about it. If you're familiar with epax, you know that they have a reputation for building really high quality machines. They have two product lines. They have a less expensive line that, where you can get in for around $300. And then they have the more expensive product line that's like twice that much. And that's kind of aimed more at the dentist market. And the x1-4k is in that segment, and I'll talk about the reasons why I chose to buy that machine. But all their stuff is really cool. They have machines that are little bitty if you want to do tiny little scale model parts. They have a new machine, the X10 I think is called, that's much bigger if you're going to do that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm recording this intro after having been printing now for a couple of weeks, and I'm just already super happy with my decision. They seem like a great company, and like I said, I'm excited about having one of their printers. So, all that blah, 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 let's go take a look at the thing and see what I've managed to accomplish with my first print. All right, so here it is. This is the epax X1 4K with the 5.5 inch mono screen. And the reason that I picked this one is because first of all, epax has got a really good reputation for having high build quality with their machines. And I like that because I ain't got time for a bunch of machines falling apart. So that's good. The other reason that I bought this particular one, now epax has two different lines. They have a less expensive lineup of machines that you can get, one for about $300. The X series is more expensive. This one was about $650. And the reason that I went ahead and did this one is because this is the primary reason. If you notice the way that it's built, all right, it's got this white door on it instead of the whole top of it being made out of translucent orange or red plastic. And that's, that's okay, but you have to lift the whole top of it off, obviously, to get into the build chamber. And I didn't want that. What I like about this is a sheet metal door. It's just got the one window in it, so it's relatively protected from stray light. But this is what I wanted, was the ability to just flip the door up and out of the way like that. That's just a lot easier for me to deal with. You can also see back there, I've got it plugged into an uninterruptible power supply. That's a handy thing. Might give you an hour in the case of a power outage before things go awry. So anyway, what you get in the box from epax is you get the printer, obviously. You get your build plate. This is not the USB you get. We'll talk about that. You get this little spatula, you get this hex key, and you get that USB drive that's plugged into the side there. And this is another one of the reasons why I selected the epax, is because it's got all these interfaces on the side rather than on the back, because yeah, that would be dumb to have them all on the back, but a lot of them do. I also ordered some resin from them. Well, they sent me actually this bottle of resin. This is their epax hard black, 405 nanometer wavelength resin. And I'm gonna try that out. It's gonna be, good for doing testing. But I also got myself a bottle of this Anycubic Craftsman, which a lot of guys have been getting really good results with. And then obviously right here, you've got the VAT and the FEP there. The hex key is for the build plate, which we'll be talking about in a second, because one of the first things you have to do is level the build plate, or do you? Most machines, you do have to level the build plate right off the bat, but another reason that I selected the epax is because it allegedly comes already leveled and you just get going. So anyway, they've got a series of videos on their YouTube channel, and they've got one that walks you through initial setup, but I thought, why not just go ahead and do it here? Basically, once you get it out of the box and you get all the little styrofoam fuzzies off of it, the first thing that you're gonna do is do a calibration thing. So you go to Tools, select Calibrate, and then just go ahead and say Next. And it's going to, this is basically just to make sure that the screen works. And you can see there it's doing its thing. So that tells you that your screen is good. And that's I guess that's a routine that's contained in the firmware, or maybe it's on the little USB stick, I'm not sure. But once that's done, you just press back and you're good. Okay, now we're gonna do what's called a dry print. So you go to print, and it's supposed to have the lampshade file on this little USB stick. That's epax's file that they include with the printer. Kind of like Frozen includes the little ring thing. But for whatever reason, it is not on my USB stick. I went out to the interwebs and I actually located a copy. Whoops, I guess I should have gone back before I took the USB stick out. I located a copy of what I thought was the correct .ctb file. And the CTB file, something I'll talk about also, but that's the format that you're gonna get. I guess that CTB must sort of be shorthand for CheetahBox, because, for a long time, everybody was using CheetahBox as their slicer. But the important part right now is that I should have the lampshade file on this USB, because I found it on the interwebs, got it on this USB, and there it is, lampshade x1-k.ctb. Now x1k, that may be a problem, and you'll see here when I go to try to do the dry print, it gives me this little error message. I guess that says different resolution with projector, blah blah blah, confirm. So it's not gonna work, but it doesn't really matter. You don't have to use that lampshade file to do your dry print. I already have put on here the Amerilabs town file, which I'm going to use as my first test print anyway. So we'll just select that and we'll hit play. And now it's going to do its thing. So we'll watch here for a second. It's going to cruise on down there and should start flashing some layers. There we go. Making noises, and there we go. So it's basically just, that's exposing the first layer, and I've already run through this, so I know it works fine, but you know, you can wait on it to do a couple of them, but we don't have to. We'll just hit stop and confirm, and we'll jump out of there, and now it's gonna just raise the arm there, and the next thing it's that it's going to be time to do is install the build plate. Okay, so I put the build plate in, and really all that is just loosening the thumb screw there and sliding the build plate on, and then tightening down the thumb screw just snug. So what I'm going to do now is go to Tools and do set Z equals 0. Oh, whoops, wrong. Got to do home first. So manual and then home. Okay, that's it. Does its thing. Now you can raise it up a bunch. And one of the reasons why epax has this thing set up so that the leveling process is this easy is because this particular machine is kind of geared towards the dental market. And dentists do not want to have to be learning all kinds of arcane procedures for leveling build plates. They want to be able to just get busy, you know, making them false teeth type things. So that's why, again, another reason that I chose epax, because I also did not want to have to go through, you know, a bunch of hullabaloo just to get going. Okay, so here we go. It is indeed about an hour later, and the print is out of the machine. Now, one question, you know, that I think a lot of people have is, what do you do with the resin when you're not running the printer? You know, obviously the super squared away thing to do is to pour it back into the bottle, but that's also a giant pain in the ass. I have the impression that some people just leave the resin in there as long as it's not, you know, getting blasted by any direct sunlight. That shouldn't be a problem, again, in theory. Eventually, you'll get some floaties in there, you know, little bits and pieces that may break off of your print, and you got to get those cleaned out. That's why they send you a strainer with their kit. But for now, at least, I'm just going to leave that in there. There is the print. I've set it on these paper towels to drain. So far, everything looks fine. But I'm also going to get a silicone mat to put here, because paper towels are just not the really a good way to go. And a silicone mat lets you just cure any splatters, and then they just break right off. So next thing is to get this off of here and get it over into the wash and cure station. Okay, so I've transferred the part into the wash and cure station. You can see it sitting down in there, and dropping it in there, yeah, I grabbed it with gripper tweezers and then just dropped it in there, which is not great, but you really don't want to be handling this stuff with bare hands. Everybody kind of knows that. I think these resins are not good for your skin. I have a little bit of a problem because with my lobster hands, I can't really put on gloves, so that's just something that I'm going to have to deal with. But this is where actually leaving it on the build plate to do the wash is better, because then you just set the build plate down in there. But can't do that right now because I don't have enough IPA. So now that I got this in here, we're gonna select, let's see, one of these hopefully will light up. Okay, it's hard to see from my angle, but yeah, the light for wash is on, so I'm gonna dial it up. And I don't know the right amount of minutes, you know, 10, 15, whatever. Anyway, you dial it in, and there it goes. Super cool. Oh yeah, well, it's, I guess I shouldn't worry too much about the delicate little features on the town part. Because if they're going to get mangled, it's already happened. You saw it get swirled around in there, and now it's kind of caught against the basket. So yeah, we'll see. That's going to be a problem because those features are going to be soft until we do the final cure. Okay, so there it is. Looks pretty good so far. Not cured yet. Okay, so that's what I'm about to do. Got it out of the wash and cure after 10 minutes, just let it air dry. And now I'm going to put the top on the cure thing and start it up. And the truth is, I have no idea how long to cure it for. I'm sure that's like situational, but I don't know. I'm asking around. I'm going to set it on 15 minutes. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm back over at the bench and back on my normal camera. Sorry about the whole iPhone camera thing, but yeah, the 3D printer is way over there and this camera is attached to this arm. Yeah, anyway, whatever. Maybe I'll get that squared away before I go on to future episodes of the 3D printing adventure. But anyway, we get this P40 right here, sort of out of the way. It's just sitting here on the bench, chilling out. And let's have a look at this part. This is pretty cool. This is my very first 3D print, and you guys are gonna see it right here on camera at the same time I'm gonna see it, because I just took it out of the wash and cure and have not looked at it up close yet. So I'm looking at it up close along with you guys, and that's pretty dope. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, you can see the scale of this thing, okay, with it on my fingertip. It is dinky, and you can see, oh look, there's some numbers there. I didn't even really study this thing in the slicer. So I'm not even certain what all features are supposed to be there, but those numbers represent the width of the slots right there. So it gets down to 0.1 millimeters wide, 0.004 of an inch for those of us stuck in the Stone Age with freedom units. But yeah, all those features there. You got some little fins, you got some rectangular depressions, you got some slots, and they're all sized from 1 millimeter down to 0.1 millimeter, so that's pretty cool. Then we've got these spines over here, and I don't know what size those are supposed to be. Let me get the light a little bit closer, maybe that'll help. Yeah, I mean, those are very fragile. They appear to have printed successfully. I'm not getting as good a look at this through the camera lens as I would just looking at it directly with my Optivisor, but still getting to see it pretty good. There's some features here on top of that tallest skyscraper. This is called Town because it's kind of hard to see, but you know, these are all like supposed to represent little buildings, and that's why it's called the Town file, because it's like a little city on the surface of this half round thing that says Amerit Labs. And I apologize, I keep banging into the camera, but there we go. Now with the angle of light a little bit better, you can see all the little windows in the skyscrapers. Those are tiny, tiny, tiny features. Those are on the order of 0.1 millimeters. Looked like they did pretty good. Again, I apologize. I'm trying to keep this thing in focus and really up close, because one of the things that annoys me about 3D printing videos that I watch on YouTube is that they never really get in close. You never get a really, really good look at what kind of resolution is happening. Okay, but this is pretty good. You can see on some of those curved surfaces, you can see layer lines. Those are inevitable. But I should point out that this one is built at 0.05 millimeter layer thickness. So 50 microns, which that's quite a bit thicker than I will typically build. Like if I was going to build a little part like this, you know, a scale modeling type part, I would be building this at probably 0.02, 20 microns, for that very reason. You know, 0.05 is okay for, you know, figures and things like that where build layer lines get lost, you know, in the wrinkles. But for hard surface parts, it really does serve to add more layers. I might go back and make I may print this again at 0.2 just to see, you know, how it is. Now, the thing is, obviously, if you go from 0.5 or 0.05 to 0.02, now you have 2.5 times as many layers. So it's going to take, you know, at least in theory, going to take 2.5 times longer. But at any rate, I'm pretty stoked. First print, successful. Okay, so there you go. That's episode 1 of Rube Goldberg's 3D printing adventures. I hope this is, you know, useful for you guys that may be thinking about getting into 3D printing for scale modeling. As I, you know, go forward, I'm going to be talking about the printing itself, using the slicer software, dealing with the parts from a scale modeling perspective, you know, assembling, finishing, all that stuff. How to design parts using Fusion 360. That's my CAD package of choice. So hopefully it'll be useful for you guys that are thinking about going down this road. For all of you guys that have already been on this road for quite a while, you know, hopefully you'll get some chuckles out of my silly mistakes. Yeah, like overwashing my parts. I'm sure I'll have some dramatic failures. But at any rate, I hope you like it. I also want to add that I am on the affiliate program with epax. So I'll put a link down in the description. And, you know, if you are thinking about buying a printer, I'd encourage you to go take a look at their stuff. And if you decide to buy one, you know, maybe throw me a bone on the affiliate link. I like make beer money out of it, so it's not a big deal, but that's always a cool thing to do. So at any rate, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you get something out of it. And as always, I appreciate it. Much love.